Sorry. And we're live.
Thank you and welcome to the AIB meeting for today, September the 21st. We have a rather full agenda. I want to thank everyone for joining us today. I have a couple of remarks to make before we get to the meat of the agenda, but I want to make sure and make certain of who's on the call today. So why don't we go through the roll call at this point, Ms. Executive Director, and who's with us?
Certainly, yes. So in addition to the chair, we have Vice Chair Kerwin and members Doss, Stapleton, Manco, Lynch, and Robinson. So everyone is present.
Thank you and welcome back. I'm sure you had a rather busy August. A few of us had an opportunity to get away. Others were working throughout that entire period of time, but welcome back. We have a great deal of work ahead of us, and I want to compliment you and thank you for the work that we've already accomplished. It's been quite a roller coaster in many ways, but a lot of work has been accomplished under some challenging circumstances and conditions. Let me first of all say a few words about Mohammed Chaudhry. I want to personally thank him for his hard work, his dedication, his intellect, his commitment to the blueprint, and all that he has done to help us get to this point. This has been a real challenge for all of us to work through new legislation, something that is entirely different for the state of Maryland. And it had not been an easy task to wrestle all of those things in a way to get them moving in the right direction. But personally, I've had a chance to work with him and work well with him. He was fully committed to the blueprint, fully committed to making sure that all of our students learned and all of our students had an opportunity to excel. So I want to thank him personally. In addition, I would hope that the statement that we put out last week, we can enter that into our record. I won't call a roll call or anything, a vote for that, but I would simply ask that we accept that by acclamation. The statement, me on behalf of the board, expressing thanks for his service and commitment to the blueprint. Thank you. Let's now move to the adoption of the summary of our last meeting. I hope you've had an opportunity to review it. If you have any changes or alterations to it in any form or fashion, now's the time to bring those before us. We will entertain that at this point in time. Any comments, revisions to the meeting summary? Okay, hearing none, we'll now go to the agenda. Unless there are some changes to the outline of the agenda that you have before you, we would proceed according to the agenda that we have before. Is there any change?
Mr. Chair, could we just take a vote on the adoption of the meeting summary?
I'm sorry.
I'll move adoption.
All right. Second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Been moved and properly second that we adopt a summary of the last meeting. Are there any questions or comments from it? If not, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, the ayes have it.
Thank you.
The agenda is outlined before. Okay, hearing none. Now is the time for public comment. Do we have anyone public comment at this point in time?
We do have one person who asked to make a statement to the board, Mr. Rick Tyler from the Maryland Education Coalition.
Mr. Tyler, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Leggett, members of the Accountability and Implementation Board. My name is Rick Tyler, co-chair of the Maryland Education Coalition, which has been advocating for adequate funding, equitable policies, and accountability in public education for over 40 years. Since the 1990s, some also contributed to the development, contents, review, and commentary of local and state master to strategic and implementation guidelines and plans. Members have reviewed the local implementation plans and several, including work group members, have submitted comments. Generally, MEC is pleased with the contents. MEC did find that the guidelines and plans lack clearly defined fiscal accountability tied to each pillar and major section, and only found brief references within current state law and Pillar 5 of the AIB and MSD plan guideline documents. MEC believes that the state has an excellent opportunity to increase user-friendly fiscal accountability by amending the Pillar 5 guidelines by aligning each pillar and major section with the budget resources and amounts used using the development of the financial management and student data systems. This is not a new precedent. It was tied to Thornton and used very effectively for over a decade with stakeholder participation. A description of the guidelines can be found within MSDE's 2006 Master Plan Annual Update Budget Review. This could be modified for today's use to provide evidence of the correlation between fiscal and programmatic programs, practices, and strategies in place for school systems and development. I'm sorry, my page didn't move.
Nope. Take your time.
MEC urges the AIB in partnership with MSDE and the General Assembly, if applicable, to adopt similar guidelines. We also urge the AIB to amend the title of the local implementation plan guidelines by adding the words accountability and implementation to more clearly show the intent. A draft table with an example of what we're asking for is included in our written statement. And I just realized that the Google Doc version of the statement changed the formatting. So the Word doc format, which Rachel also has, should be a clear copy. In addition, MEC urges the AIB and the MSDE to continue to improve communication between all stakeholders, including decision makers, professionals, and community parent representatives. For full disclosure, one of the MEC members with experience with master strategic and implementation plans, first created in Prince George's County Schools and used as a model for Thornton. I thank you for your time, and if there's any questions, I'm here.
Thank you. Just one comment. Did you say that you had to talk to the MSDE about your concerns as well?
It was our intent to address it with the AIB first, and also address it with the MSDE. But we thought, since you're the leadership on the implementation plans, that we bring it to your attention first. We realize that MSDE plays a role in the developing of all of this.
Right. I just want to make sure that I heard correctly and so forth. Okay, are there any questions or comments or follow-up from our today's public comment? If not, thank you so very much for taking the time to come to address us. We'll look clearly into what you've indicated to us today, and hopefully we'll get a positive response back to you in the foreseeable future. Thank you.
Okay. And Rachel knows how to contact me, so thank you for the time.
Thank you. Now we'll turn it over to our Executive Director for the Executive Director's report. And Ms. Executive Director, Ms. Heiss, the floor is now yours.
Thank you. So there are a number of updates, and I thought what I would do is just sort of go through each one, and if there are any questions at the end of each topic, we'll take them then. So the first item is a staffing update. So we are very pleased with the response to the education policy analyst position postings. We've received over 175 applicants for the positions, and that closed last evening. So we will be going through the process of reviewing the applications and interviews, and I think we have a very strong possibility of having all of them on board before the end of before hopefully the end of the calendar year. So that is very good news. We also will next be posting for the communications and outreach director, and then also for the research and accountability director. And with those positions of what we now have, we would be fully staffed with the possibility of one more position.
Hey, Rachel.
Yes.
Ms. Heiss,
Yes.
you mentioned on the first position, the policy what
The education policy analyst, there are 5. Well, actually, you know what? I'm sorry. I skipped one. There's still, we will also be posting for a fiscal and data analyst. So, but go ahead. What was your question?
We're gonna have to come back.
Yeah,
because-
we can't. We can come back to that one.
hear me, Rachel? Sorry.
That's okay. We can, when we're able to hear you, you can ask your question. Okay, are there any other questions on the staffing update? So just to clarify, so we've posted for the five education policy analysts. And that is what we're going to be filling as soon as possible. Then in addition, we will be posting for a data and fiscal analyst, a communications and outreach director, and a research and accountability director. And then we do have one other possible position that we're working on that I don't want to. Yes.
Just one question. The ones that have not been posted yet, are you posting them all at the same time, or are you going to stagger?
I think we're going to stagger them.
Is there a reason for you listed and the research and accountability was last? Is there a reason why that one might be?
The only reason is I'm wanting to make sure that the description of the position and the qualifications that we're looking for are appropriate, and I just wanted to vet that with board members and others before posting it.
Thank you.
It's a very important and urgent position, so it's very important. So it's no statement on that.
Madam Executive Director, could you define again what fully staffed means, and then share any diversity goals that you have for hiring?
So in statute, the AIB has 15 regular permanent positions. And so that is what I mean by fully staffed. And we currently, so it's myself, the policy director, the implementation plan director, the executive special assistant, the deputy director for operations, the finance director. So those are the 6 positions that are currently permanently filled. We also have a part-time contractual. And then, so that's 6 positions that are permanently filled. So then in addition, we've got the 5 policy analysts plus the fiscal analyst. And then we've got the communications director, the research director, and then the 15th position originally was our assistant attorney general. But we are sharing that position with another agency, the IAC. And so that leaves a 15th position that we can hopefully and this is sort of all part of the budget process that right now is not public. But we're pursuing that 15th position that per the statute. In terms of diversity, we are seeking to hire the most diverse workforce that we can, based on the applicants and the, you know, who fits the requirements the best. But it is absolutely a very high part of the process in determining who is hired.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. I did a little of that on the fly just because some I get, so, but. Any other questions about staffing? Dr. Kerwin, are you there?
Yes.
Okay.
No,
We can
you
hear you.
answered my question. You was asking how many policy analysts will we be hiring, and you answered the question. Thank you.
Great. Okay. Okay. So if there are no more questions about staffing, the next topic is the technical assistance grant. This is the strategic facilitator technical assistance grant program that you all approved, that we have been working on implementing over the summer. We are now in the stage of the process where the the strategic facilitators have been approved. We had over 80 applicants, and there are 48 that were of those that were approved, went through the interview process, application interview process, and were approved to participate in the program. And the LEAs are now in the process of reviewing those strategic facilitators. They have access to their resumes, to the answers that they provided to the pre-qualification questions, and all sorts of, to their references, although we are doing the actual reference check, but they have access to a lot of information, including the strategic facilitators were given the option to provide like a one-pager overview on themselves. So the LEAs are reviewing all of that information, plus the CTE committee, to then provide, actually by end of day tomorrow, their top priorities or preferences for who to work with. And then we'll be going through a matching process to match each LEA with the strategic facilitator, with the goal of meeting everyone's first preference if possible, but that may not be possible in all cases. So that's where we are in that process. The CTE committee and then 22 of our 24 local school systems are participating in the program. And once they are matched next week, they will begin working on their initial project plan, that, you know, identifying what the priorities and the scope of work that each LEA wants to focus on with their strategic facilitator, and execute a grant agreement and an MOU so that the grant program itself will be up and running beginning October 16th. Dr. Stapleton.
Yeah, I apologize if this was sent out to us. Do we have a list of the strategic facilitators who were approved? That's question number one. Or can the public see that list? And the second question is, have they indicated their capacity? So I was just wondering about this matching process. Have they indicated that, you know, they could only work with 2 LEAs and thus only match them with 2? Or I guess, how is that happening?
I'm going to work in reverse. So we did indicate that a strategic facilitator could work with up to 2 LEAs. And we asked them to indicate in their materials their availability in terms of hours to devote to the project. And so the process that we're gonna work through, and we were just talking about this morning, is for strategic facilitators that are, the top preference for more than one LEA. We're going to reach out to them to determine, if they're willing to work with 2 LEAs or not. In terms of the approved strategic facilitator list, I don't believe we have made that. We haven't shared that with you, and we haven't made it public. Assuming there's not an issue with doing that, we can certainly provide that to you all and make it public.
I think that would be nice to show some level of transparency of who's been approved.
We'll get that out there. Thank you. Rachel?
Any other questions on the technical assistance grant? Okay. The next item is the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan update. We will be posting the final version with all of the changes in one document by the end of the month, and then it will be going to print. We are going to do a more limited print this time around, and but hard copies will be available upon request, as they were last year. We're thinking about what process to use moving forward, so as we update the plan potentially each year, so that we're not reprinting the entire plan every year. So that's something we're trying to think about moving forward, but this year we are going to reprint the entire plan again. And then the outcome measures work group, which is, was, part of the comprehensive update in terms of developing the output and outcome measures, will be getting back to work starting next month. There has been work going on at the staff level to prepare materials so that the work group will have some items to focus on when they do get back together, and then meet throughout the fall and maybe longer. And then I'll just roll right into the state implementation plans, AIB staff. Oh, I'm sorry, Member Lynch.
No, I was just going to ask if we are integrating the feedback from the survey that was completed into our updates and changes, and will we have some way to sort of identify the feedback that we took and how we integrated that into any updated changes before we reprint?
And when you talk about the survey, you're talking about the comprehensive plan update, or are you talking about the LEA implementation plans?
The LEA implementation plan feedback, but I'm wondering if any of that needs to be considered in terms of our plan as well. And if not, then maybe not, but if there's anything in there that we need to consider in our updates, will that be considered before we revise?
That's a good question. We received the results of the survey after the board voted on the updates. So, and actually I'm going to ask Emma if there's anything. I cannot think of anything that we might want to incorporate, and Emma is telling me that she can't think of any responses that would affect the Blueprint Comprehensive Plan.
Okay, great, thanks.
Sorry, I'm going to chime in. I first of all, I want to say I really appreciated that we went through that process of getting feedback on that plan. And is it perhaps possible that we have sort of a guideline accompaniment that comes with the comprehensive plan because most of the feedback was about wanting some more just suggestions or clarity on how to answer some of the questions, which doesn't sound like it would be something that would need a vote or anything. It's still, we're asking for the same information. We're just providing a little bit more help.
Yeah, so since it's coming up, we can skip to that and then we'll come back. So the survey of the implementation plan process that was done with the LEAs was primarily focused on, and it was done anonymously so that they felt comfortable sharing their what they wanted to. And there were also some focus groups that were held by one of our the consultants from Lumen. So again, it was, not with anyone who knew them. And they provided some very helpful feedback regarding both the process in terms of the submission and review process, and also the substantive parts of the implementation plan that they were asked to submit. And as part of that, there's what we call the template, which is the format that they had to respond in, as well as the data tables that they had to in the initial template that they had to submit. And so it was very helpful to get their feedback. And we have been, AIB staff and MSDE staff have been meeting to review the survey results and review the format of the template, the criteria for success, and what changes we would like to make both to the format and to the process for the submission in for their next submission in March of 2024. So we are rethinking how many, particularly the length of the template and the specificity of the questions, so that we can provide the LEAs with more of an opportunity to provide responses that are hopefully maybe a little give them an opportunity to share innovative things that they are doing, what they've been thinking about in terms of strategy and longer term approaches, and not just I think many of them felt like the template was more of a compliance exercise, which is actually the opposite of what we want it to be. We want it to be a strategic planning document that actually they go back to and refer to, sort of like some of us with the comprehensive plan, it's falling apart because we go back to it so often. And so that feedback was very, very valuable in terms of refocusing on, and it's why we created the Strategic Facilitator Technical Assistance Grant Program, is to support more strategic planning, more innovative strategies, and doing things differently in order to implement the blueprint. Emma, did you want to say anything else about the survey results?
No, I think that you captured everything that we wanted to make sure was shared.
So in terms of Member Stapleton, you specifically a guidance document. There was a guidance document last year, but obviously it did not provide enough guidance. So we definitely are taking that to heart. We have our timeline our internal staff timeline with MSDE is to develop this new template and the criteria for success that go with it by the end of October. So the LEAs will also have more time knowing what they're being asked to provide, which the timing works out very nicely with when their strategic facilitators will be coming on board. So they come on board officially mid-October. This template will be available end of the month, and they can start really focusing on not on writing their plan, but on actually what their strategies are to achieve the blueprints, goals, and outcomes. And hopefully that process will then, yield a plan that is, isn't like, obviously you have to write it down, but it shouldn't be that much extra work because it's your strategy.
Right, thank you.
Yeah. I think you might have asked something else. Did I answer all of your questions? Okay. So, just sticking with the LEA implementation plans, we are now at a point where all 24 of the plans have been or about to be formally approved. When at the last meeting, there were 3, or when they were last approved, there were 3 LEAs that had not completed their career counseling MOU. And those have now been revised, resubmitted, and approved. So all 24 LEAs are formally approved plans. We have been collecting the final LEA implementation plans from the LEAs so that, the process they went through where they were made revisions in separate documents, we asked for one revised plan for each LEA so that it was all in one document. And we have received almost all of them from the LEAs. We were sort of holding off to post them all at once, but we're going to go ahead and post those next week. And then as the final couple of LEAs submit their plans, we'll post those too. We will also be posting the translated versions into Spanish on the website. We've sent several are already with the translator. We've gotten a couple of them back, I believe. And so we will, as we get those back, we will start to post those on our website as well as share it with the LEAs so that they can post it on their websites. And just checking to see if there's anything else. I think that's everything.
Okay. Are we ready now to go to item 4?
One more thing
Okay.
is the advisory committee openings. Mr. Manco, did you want to talk a little bit about the plan there?
Sure. Yeah, so first off, wanted to give a huge thank you to everybody who thus far has served on our advisory committees. We had a really strong inaugural year with 24 total members, and we had a meeting over the summer where the time had gone so quickly, so we decided to extend the terms for we had everybody on staggered terms, and we decided to extend each of the terms by a year to continue with the staggered nature of things. But in the process, we also gave people the option if they were interested to roll off if either conditions had changed or they were no longer interested in serving. So we did hear from a handful of advisory committee members that they were no longer interested in participating. And because of that, we now have a handful of vacancies. So of the total advisory committee members, we have 5 vacancies that are currently going to be available. As you remember, the advisory committees are divided up to correspond to pillars 1 through 4. So for Pillar 1, we have 1 vacancy for a student member. For Pillar 2, we have 1 vacancy for a student member and then 1 vacancy for a additional member at large. For Pillar 3, we have 1 vacancy for a member at large, and for Pillar 4, we have an additional opening for a member at large. So overall 5 members, 1 in each of the pillar, but then for Pillar 1, a student member, and then for Pillar 2, we have both a student member and then a full member. So nominations are now being accepted, and we will continue to accept nominations until September 28th at the end of the day. So that's a week from today. And applications will continue to be accepted until Wednesday, October 4th. So if you are interested in applying for one of these 5 positions, you are welcome to go onto the AIB website and you can submit an application. If you have somebody who you feel like would be a strong participant, but and you would like to nominate them, please make sure you fill out your nomination form by close of business by next Thursday, a week from today. And then once all of the submissions are completed by Wednesday, October 4th, we are going to reconvene our advisory committee oversight group to go through, read through applications and do some additional due diligence to ensure that we have 5 members that we can recommend, hopefully by the October board meeting. So, you know, this is all going to move pretty quickly. Thank you to Rachel Amstutz, who has helped to spearhead this whole process, and to my colleagues on the board who have helped during the first round of advisory committee selection, and hopefully will support us in this subsequent round. And hopefully by next meeting, we'll be able to vote on a full slate of advisory committee members to round out the group that we currently have.
Member Manko,
Yes.
where did we get this disseminated in terms of availabilities?
So all of the information is available through the AIB website. So both nomination forms and application forms if people are interested in applying.
Okay.
And
If
then
I
also
can
I
just-
think we'll be sending stuff out through social media, and you know, the team has been great about reaching out to blueprint coordinators and local superintendents, and just trying to get the word out there through social media and other media forms.
Thank you.
I just wanted to add, it is not posted yet, but it will be posted soon, shortly. And we will also, in addition to all the things that Mr. Manko said, we will also, we do have a fairly robust email list that we send emails out to, that we will be sharing all that information out to our email list.
Yeah, sorry for misspeaking. We also have a press release that's going out around it as well. So hopefully we'll have people that are interested, and we will get these 5 slots filled with, you know, a really diverse, qualified, and energetic group of participants.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. One other topic that I think I started to discuss was the state implementation plan review updates. So AIB staff, we have been meeting with the various state entities that submitted blueprint implementation plans and going through feedback and comments with them. And so we're in the middle of that process. And so hopefully we will be able to bring some plans to you for approval next month.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, we're now ready for agenda item 4, which is the item that involves our export review team. And why don't you give us a little bit of a history about this, because I have a motion to make. But I do want to start by, first of all, apologizing to the board members, because I had indicated that by this time we would have a a draft of a recommendation for your support and to review so that we can act on it. But because of the time and a lot of different moving parts, we only got that to you somewhat late. And so what I would hope that we will have an opportunity by the next meeting in October so that we can finally approve what may be a new format for us to consider. But today's meeting is limited basically to the matter at hand, which is the approval of the recommendation for a minimum of 50 schools to be reviewed, 2023 and 24. So why don't you give us a little bit of a background of where we are with that? And then at the end of that, I would make a motion, hopefully that would cover the basis of our discussion.
Thank you. So in August, you may recall, we received a presentation from Maryland State Department of Education around the expert review teams. And specifically, we just talked about the methodology that was used to identify the schools that would be visited in the 23-24 school year. And the list included 200 schools, which was intended to accelerate the expert review team process since during the previous year, there were very few visits that actually occurred. And so to try to make up for that loss of time and visits, the AIB had asked MSDE to put together a list of 200 schools that would be visited in the upcoming school year, in the current school year, I should say now. As part of that process, there was, in particular, Member Stapleton had asked a question about the process that was used in the methodology for the criterion 6, which is basically everything else. So just to refresh everyone, the methodology that MSDE is proposing has 6 criterion. Schools with lowest performing in English and math, schools that are lower performing in English and math, who were not in the lowest group, schools that are the highest performing against, again, English and math, schools that have the largest learning loss in English or math, and this was an addition to the statute as a result of COVID-19, and then students' learning gaps within schools in English and math among different student group populations. And then the 6th criterion is all the other schools. And there was some question about the geographic diversity of the school, the LEAs that were were on the list to be visited. And one suggestion was to exclude LEAs that already had a school that fell under one of the other 5 criteria from the number 6. So that would allow for additional LEAs to come onto the list in a random manner. MSD has made that change to their methodology. And so that is one change from what was submitted in August. And then in addition, the list of 200 has now been scaled back to 50 schools. And this is in part to acknowledge that in the last school year, the visits were not able to happen. They did not happen. And therefore, it might make more sense to start a little smaller rather than trying to accelerate to 200 schools this year. The other aspect of that was, and I think in the questions that you all asked during the August meeting, there was some questioning around the broad agenda of the expert review teams, and it is, you know, they're going into schools and they're really looking at everything in a day and a half visit, and wondering if there might be an opportunity to have a more focused set of visits or experts that would focus on particularly early literacy and also math, specifically in the elementary grades in this upcoming school year, recognizing that we have a lot of ground to make up in those areas. And so what you have before you is the list of 50 schools. And this-
Because
yes.
that we have a lot to make up. I think it's important for the public to know what we're talking about in context. Give us an indication of just where we stand. I don't have the numbers right in front of me. I don't want to give that number. That may be all. Commissioner Board Member Curran had sent that around, I think, to a number of people. And you may find it shocking to look at where Maryland actually stand vis-a-vis other schools around the country.
Vice Chair Kerwin, did you want to share that? You're on mute.
Most recent NAEP scores,
Right.
which are, of course, the same exam given to a random set of students in all 50 states in reading and math, 4th, 8th grades. And in the 4th grade reading, when the commission was working several years ago, Maryland ranked 26th out of 50 states. In the most recent NAEP scores, we ranked 40th out of 50 states. So we've not only are not in a good position, we've fallen significantly in the last several years. So clearly,
Those states, Commissioner Board Member Curran.
well, Mississippi, Alabama, all ahead of us. So you know, it's I think Arkansas and Tennessee for sure. Even my home state of Kentucky ahead of Maryland on the 4th grade reading, and so clearly there is an issue in our state on this issue of literacy that we have to get our hands around, because early literacy, you learn to read so you can read to learn. And if we can't get our kids able to read so they can read to learn, it's going to be very hard to, we're not going to be able to achieve the goals of the blueprint. So this literacy issue is clearly a very major topic for our state to address.
And on that subject, I think Board Member Curran and I had an opportunity yesterday to visit the University of Maryland for the kickoff of a joint program with the University of Maryland College Park and Morgan State, the MILES program, which is the Maryland Initiative for Literacy Equity, which is a joint effort looking at ways of how we can address this real challenge. And as indicated, it's a real concern for us. I wanted Board Member Curran to list that because many of the public may assume that we are doing much, much better than we are. And this is why we need to look more aggressively at our reading and literacy and math results. I'm sorry, Executive Director, you could proceed now. I just wanted to interject that with other comments that you were making.
No, thank you. So what you have before you is a list of 50 schools that would be the minimum number of schools that the expert review teams would visit in this school year. And as the chair said, this potential plan to more directly address early literacy and also math, which is actually more challenged on the scores than reading. MSD and AIB have been working on developing a plan that would be more targeted. And as the chair said, the goal is to bring that back to you all at the October meeting. And then in the event that it doesn't work out, then there would be the opportunity to add more schools to the list for the expert review teams to visit in this school year.
All right, before I go on and make a motion, are there any questions or comments about the background of what we're talking about at this point? I'm going to make a motion and you'll have an opportunity to talk about the motion or make comments, if you will. All right, seeing that, I now make a motion, and I'm going to read this, but I want to make sure we get it in the record appropriately. The motion is to approve the Maryland Department of Education Expert Review Team School Deployment List by region school year 2023-24 with the following conditions. 1, the 50 schools noted in the school deployment list is the minimum number of schools that shall be visited by the expert review team in 2023-24 school year. And 2, either MSDE and AIB will reach an agreement on a plan to deploy additional resources to local education agencies and elementary schools for early elementary literacy and math support during the 2023-24 school year, or B, if MSDE and AIB do not reach such an agreement, additional schools will be added to the school deployment list in accordance with statutory requirements. That is the motion before you. Any discussion on this motion? Okay, hearing none. I
Would you like
assume,
a motion to approve?
okay. Second to the motion,
A second.
Second.
moving properly second, we approve the motion that I've just read. Any question or discussion on the motion again? All right, hearing none, we're now ready for the question. All in favor, please indicate by raising your hands. Did you get a reflection of the numbers there?
Yes. That's everyone.
All right, if everyone, obviously there's no opposition. The motion now is approved.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair, I would like to just for everyone watching our meeting to explain why these materials are not available for the public. The list of 50 schools will be, now that it's been approved, MSDE will be notified, and their process is to notify the LEAs and so that they can notify the schools and the principals before the list is made public, so that no one's caught off guard by the fact that they're going to be visited this year. So the list will be made public, but not until it has been shared with the LEAs and the schools that are going to be visited.
Thank you. Anything else on our public agenda for today that we need to cover?
I believe we've covered everything.
Okay, thank you. Can you now, or our attorney, provide the appropriate language for an executive session?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The board expects to receive legal advice from counsel and discuss fiscal matters that are subject to executive privilege pursuant to sections 3-305 B7 and B13 of the general provisions article of the annotated code of Maryland. The motion is to close this meeting and then subsequently to adjourn from the closed session.
Okay. All right, there's a motion. There's a second. I so move a second to the motion.
Second,
The moved and properly second that we go into closed session as so described. All in, and then the question, issues related to the motion itself before us. Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you. We'll now go into closed session.